Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. And today with me, I have Tom and Marc from ONEB. And today we're talking about Spiritfire. Spiritfire is...
This goes on for an hour.
This could go on for an hour. We could do this at the end. And at the end, we'll just whisper Spiritfire for like 4 more minutes.
Mm-hmm. While looking in each other's eyes.
Yes, that's wonderful. Mm-hmm. So Spiritfire is your third game. You have Vindication, you have Orange, you have Unsettled, and then you have Spiritfire. There's a whole lot of questions to get into, and we're going to jump around wildly all over the place. But to start off with, what were your... Vindication and Unsettled are both self-contained experiences. They're both one-shots, not self-contained. They're one-shot experiences. Spiritfire is a lot more ambitious in the overall just how big this is designed to be. You know, you're taking on a character, living through the spark, going through the whole journey, just like a whole lot more game. This is not a sit down for 2.5 hours, play a game, reset, start again. This is a living world, just a whole lot of things going. We're going to talk more about the game. We'll have a full first impressions video. We'll get more into some of the mechanics and stuff, but what prompted you to do that? Like, why? You went from 2 one-shot experiences to, let's just go much bigger. Let's completely change how we approach this. Like, to me, Vindication and Unsettled feel like they have some common DNA while being very different limitations. And Spiritfire still feels like it has some common DNA, but just exploded into a much larger ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. Well, each time we approach a game, you know, we kind of look at, like, what is the heart? Like, what's the sacred concept of this game that we're trying to explore? And, you know, with Unsettled, we were looking at this group collaboration experience, which is something that you can really explore in a one-shot scenario. With Vindication, we were looking at gaining your lost honor. But with this, we were looking at this idea of what do you do with the flame that you carry? What do you do with your internal spark while it lasts? And how much wisdom do you attain over the course of a life? And as we were exploring that idea, we realized, like, this isn't something that's just a season of a life or something that can be captured in a scenario. It is an idea that encompasses many years and seasons in someone's life. And the more we talked about it, the more it just became clear that for the story to convey its message, it needs to capture this long extent of time, this experience that this character is having.
It's just depth. Yeah, it's depth and immersion. A lot of times we just ask ourselves, what are we capable of? Like, this is what we're doing for our career and, you know, selling our life by the hour or whatever you want to say. We just decided, you know, what are we capable of? What can we make that people could get lost in? You know, what does it mean to role play? What does it mean to build a character and go on a journey and not have it be typical? And so some of that just does require depth, and some of it requires, you know, spreading out an open world that you can get lost in and explore and discover things. And this is just kind of what it culminated into. I don't know if we really had a plan that it would be exactly this when we ended it.
Mm-hmm. Generally, we kind of let the game start telling us what it wants to be. And, you know, it's kind of like if you're writing a novel, you know, once you kind of get to know your character, you just put them in different situations and you just kind of know what the character is going to do, and it starts speaking to you like its own thing that exists in the world. Mm-hmm. And with games, the more we get close to the heart and understanding the heart at the core of the game just kind of tells us what it's supposed to be. And as we explored this, we just realized, okay, this is a bigger, larger, more campaign style game than the others.
And what were your core design goals around the experience? I mean, once you figured out what it wanted to be, like, what are the main criteria you have, either as designers or for the player to experience? What are the main things that guide this, the way you're approaching this?
One of them for me is we have to do something different than what we think is in the space. Otherwise, we don't feel like we're pushing ourselves and learning and growing along the way.
I'll guarantee it's different than things in the space, by the way.
Yeah, I think we are reaching for something here, and along the way, it has felt very risky in I think a good way, where we're being a little bit vulnerable.
We always shoot ourselves in the foot with this because all of our games, we get into this situation where we make this thing and it's like, all right, pitch this to me. And, you know, the average pitches, it's like this, but like this. Or it's like this thing you're familiar with, but with a twist. And with this, it's like nothing you've ever played before, which doesn't tell you anything, but that ends up being the case, and then how the heck do we sell it to people other than saying that? So we
It's the cost of innovation.
Yeah.
Well, let's go with that. How do you sell this to people? Who is this for? What is the game doing? What is the core pitch of what Spiritfire is?
Go for it.
I mean, Spiritfire is an open world journey of introspection and character development that is really driven by discovery and wonder and wanting to open new packs of cards and overturn the next rock and see what you can find and build your character. But that is built around a really crunchy mechanical core where you get all those real exciting elements of discovery and exploration, but you also have the card play of a TCG or the more crunchy elements of a Euro at the center of it to make it mechanically potent.
And aside from mechanics, there's no combat in this game at all.
I was going to touch upon that in a second.
And so what we wanted to do was explore all of the other 99% of what happens on an adventure and move away from kind of the popular, tactical combat or whatnot that's in this space and kind of pretty well covered at this point. What else could you do without, having to have equipment and weapons and armor and stuff like that? And so it does become very much a mental game, and it's lent itself really into some kind of puzzly types of, problems and things that you unlock in yourself and disciplines that you master and things like that I think are kind of interesting to dive into.
Now, one thing I found interesting, the questions I ask about combat is there's no combat. And I understand focusing on the other things, but why no combat? Why isn't combat like one of 5 things to focus on? Why did you specifically not want combat?
Part of the sacred concept for us is to create the limitation to see how far we can go within the box. And I think representing combat, it's really easy to fall into, okay, kill the monster, take its treasure, get the gold, go to town, upgrade my gear. That just felt incongruous with what we're trying to bring about in this game, where we're trying to talk about who we could be, not just completing a quest, but why would we complete that quest, and what does that do inside of us, and what does that ignite, and what type of a character am I becoming in doing so? And you're not asking any of those questions in combat. You're like, victory or defeat. And this feels like you're winning by degrees,
And combat is so prevalent in gaming that I think the second that it is present, we just glom on that direction. And at a certain point, we just decided, isn't this more interesting if it's just not there at all? Like, doesn't that make this a more unique proposition to create a game that has tension, suspense, drama, obstacles to overcome, friction, but there is no combat to fall back on to implement those things. And it's just, as a designers, that's a compelling challenge. But then as players, that to me would be a selling point of a game, just to say like, hey, this is going to be different. It is not iterations on tactical combat. This is a whole new thing. Mm-hmm. And not just, combat's, playing a smaller role, or like, it just, to say that it is not there, because it was there for a while. And the day that we just said, what if we just cut it completely? It was kind of like puzzle pieces falling into place, where everyone was just like, I was going to go, like you do when puzzle pieces fall into place. I don't know what your relationship is with puzzles.
I just make it sound, but same as good idea.
But it just felt right. It was like, okay, this is this game's identity. It doesn't have combat. It is something else.
If a role play is echoing life, how much combat have you actually been in your life, right? Like, we're not.
Speak for yourself.
There's so many other. There's a lot of mental combat. I would agree.
Well, you're engaging with not necessarily foes, but situation. Like, there's going to be so Spiritfire has a bunch of things going on. Feel free to correct me at any point. But there's going to be deck building. There's going to be tableau management. There's going to be a character arc as you go through your character's spark and try to elongate as much as possible and try to last as long as you can, have the greatest impact, and explore as much as you can. Meanwhile, there's a living world around you. There's multiple realms you can explore and interact with that all have their own quests and challenges and ways that they impact the environment. And so you're engaging with this from a mechanical standpoint, from a story standpoint, from multiple interweaving elements that almost make you question what the focus is, and is it the world, is it the characters, all these things going on. But like part of that has a degree of exploration. Part of that has like I don't want to give spoilers. I'm not going to talk about some things, but like some of these realms have things in them. And so like the idea that, I mean, you asked about how much combat I've been in my life. Not much, but I also haven't visited multiple realms and had impacts on the populations and negotiated and meditated and navigated all these other political spheres. So it's like my life's boring. There's a reason I'm playing this. But like the combat aspect is just I find it I agree with what you said a second ago. The idea that it is such a focus that if you have it, it almost feels like, well, why isn't it more present? As opposed to if you don't have it, it's just, okay, we change the way we interact. We change the environments we're interacting in. And like, it is such a focus of most games in general, or at least most games that are epic tales of a game, almost always have combat as a core focus. The only one I can think of that doesn't, that falls into like, giant epic campaign narrative, might be Either Fields from Awakened Realms. It's been so long I've played, I'm trying to remember if there's combat at all. There's definitely enemies and monsters, but it's very much focused on exploration. Combat might be a minute aspect of it, but it's much more. Like that's the only one I can think of. Everything else, you're fighting. If you're on an epic tale, if you're on a journey, an adventure, there's fighting. Of course there's fighting. Why wouldn't there be fighting? Even Seventh Continent,
right. Where does threat and tension come from? Oh, being attacked.
Yeah, and threat and tension. So to that end, where does threat and tension come from in Spiritfire? What are the threat and tension here?
The threat and tension is often coming from, sometimes you will be faced with perilous situations that you need to get out of. So you are in physical threat. But
so you run. That's
but
much
you
more like my life.
or you talk something out of it, or you find a creative solution, or you can't fight a weather pattern that is putting you in danger, or this rock slide, or this group of people who are trying to run you out of the village, or a fire that is spreading, or whatever. So like you can be in danger and have that danger not be something that you can resolve by stabbing it. And so those are the sorts of things that we're exploring with tension.
The tension always comes from within. And the question in this game is, how are you going to handle it? Not how much damage could you do?
I think of a lot of, if you think about any sort of like social dialogue tension that might exist in, like, say, a video game. You're playing The Witcher, and there's this, you have these things, you're making decisions in how you communicate with people, and there will be ramifications. There's tension in that, like what you choose to do and the fallout of that and how that's going to affect the world, and do you want to drain all the water from the swamps, and what will that mean? And like you get to open this pack or this pack based on your choices. There's tension in that choice.
So speaking of which, that leads to a bunch of mechanic-based questions you have. So as far as that choice, let's go with that one first. What degree of permanent impact is there in the game as you go through it? What kind of choose your own adventure elements are here that actually have you choosing something that might have a lasting impact?
There's a large degree of lasting impact to your choices. Each of the realms has 10 different fully loaded packs that are each packed with quests and ways, new map cards and new cards that go into the encounter deck that can dramatically change the way that the world functions. So you might, depending on how you resolve a certain quest, you may open a pack that totally populates the world with all these dangerous things that are now happening because of the way you resolve something. Or an entire half of the environment is destroyed, all the locations there are no longer available, and it's been replaced by all new locations, and there are new people in all those locations, or now all the people are against you, and people who used to be your friends have been recontextualized to be, really antagonistic based on the choices that you've made.
Again, this is not feeling like real life again.
Or it might just be that you befriended someone with your action, and they decided because you answered a certain way that they're going to stick around and teach you things. Sometimes it's not super intense. Sometimes it's just, I'm going to be your friend now, or this companion's going to follow you around.
Now, so one thing about the game in general, again, mechanically driven, is this is very much focused as a solo play experience that you can also engage with the same rules with other players. You can have other players sitting on the same table, engaging in the same realms, teaming up, so to speak, or just doing their own separate things simultaneously. And one thing you touched upon at one point is talking about that power scaling, about how it's not like a character who's been playing for 30, 40 hours versus a character who popped in can still engage in the same world without a huge disparity in how the power feels. Because a lot of it is about how you are efficient across the whole spectrum of things as opposed to how you're efficient in the moment. But how do you balance around ensuring that things in the game that you unlock, cards in your deck, tableau building, all these elements, how do you balance around ensuring that those things consistently feel rewarding and different without engaging in a degree of power creep where you're just getting more powerful.
I think a lot of that is is variety in the challenges that you're facing, because then everything gets to be really contextual. And so this card is absolutely fantastic against this scenario, or this scenario, this obstacle that you're up against. You put these cards in your deck, and now you're really well equipped for this scenario, this obstacle. But if the obstacles that you're facing and the challenges that you're using your cards against are consistently varied, then the power of a card is doing this all the time, depending on what you're facing.
The disciplines that you choose to master will allow you to do different things. It's hard to contextualize this game against the other ones because we're not using the same kind of tropes, I guess. But like in a traditional game, if you want to make your own armor, you just become a blacksmith or you find a blacksmith. And it's the same type of thing here. If you want to learn to read the runes so that you can open the secret gateways, then start mastering mnemonics, which is one of the things in this game. And those types of things will allow you to leave doors closed or open them, but each one is an opportunity cost. Maybe you can learn mnemonics or you can learn arcane mastery. Well, I don't even know at the point which one I want, but there's something on the map over here that looks interesting that has mnemonics. Maybe I'll pursue that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, one thing we talked about is how as your character goes through the spark, as they move on, they go through their end game, they have their own process. That character might leave some sort of impact on the world. Like, how does that manifest in the game?
Some of that we want to keep a little bit as a surprise. But when your character finishes their story, there is you open an end game box that runs you through sort of this end game process and final acts of that character, which brings a conclusion to the experience of that character and their story and that experience. There are some surprises that come out of that box for what's essentially like a new game plus mode, where when you come with a new character, when you are creating that character, you have some new options, and then there are things that the preceding characters have left behind, passed down, and how you experience that is kind of up to the, is this like a heritage thing passed down through family? Is it just generational wisdom? Is it a reincarnation thing? We're leaving that kind of ambiguous. I promise we'll handle it in a way that is satisfying. But the idea is as you keep playing, you're building your card pool, and future playthroughs will be different and have twists and have new opportunities and have new layers and textures that the previous playthroughs didn't have, because of the way previous characters played. So you will play through a character and then have a satisfying conclusion, but then be excited to start the next one because it will be different because of what you just did.
And what are other ways that new content enters the world? How is the sense of exploration and discovery? What are the various ways new cards, new content, new anything enters this world as you play?
Well, it's similar to Unsettled, another game that we have. You'll have a character box in this game, but you'll also have these realm boxes. And the realm boxes are kind of these shared experiences where you can either go through them yourself or you can play parallel with another player. But we are going to have multiple realms that we're releasing with different content, different story arcs that you can follow, quests and encounters and those types of things that will challenge you environmentally, but you're going to be able to jump between them. Mm-hmm. That's one way. Another way is we have personal quest packs. They kind of like 2 packs together, and you'll open the first one, and it's like, okay, well, here's the idea. Maybe it lays out a bunch of quests and things that you can go do to save a companion creature. And so you're spending a lot of time in any realm basically trying to complete this personal quest and gain the rewards and sometimes consequences of the choices that you make there.
So even if you play this game a ton, and you have bought all the realms that are available, and you've played through all the content in those realms, the realms will still exist as an environment that you can go and visit. There, you can still explore the map, you will still have the types of encounters that you would have in that realm, all the wildlife and people and the NPCs and the villages and all. That realm is still present and active and a place you can go. And then as we release quests, you can just go and do these quests in whatever realm is interesting to
So
you.
this is similar to the way you've supported Unsettled in the past, where you can have a planet, but you release more quests for that planet.
Yeah, and the caveat being the quests aren't realm specific. So you may, buy 6 quests that seem really interesting to you, and then you say, what's my favorite realm to go do these in? Or you look at the quest and you say, which of these realms does it feel like this quest will be funnest to, or most easy to, or however, whatever you think is interesting.
And so correct me if I'm wrong, so just following off, so you're mentioning, choices and impacts. So I might dive into a quest in a realm A, which we can call it realm A, where the locals are no longer talking to me, and my friend might be diving into that new quest pack in realm A, where he instead befriended a villager, of a wise man who's taught him whatever. Are those lasting impacts to how the realm played out, or those are localized to the quest you're engaging in?
Well, the realm is just sort of its own, if I'm understanding you correctly. The realm exists as its own standalone environment, and then the quests that you are bringing into it are personal to you. So if we're both playing in the same realm, the realm just is the realm. The village is either there or it's been destroyed, or these people are there and are feeling friendly towards the players, or they're not. But then if you have a personal quest that says like, hey, I am on this quest to pursue this ideal of, peacemaking, and you need to go and help resolve conflict between people that exist in the realm, and you have a realm where there's not a lot of opportunity for that going on because of the decisions that you've made, that may not be the right realm to pursue that in.
I guess I'm less focused on that. I mean, that's a fair point. I'm less focused on that and more focused on, do the decisions I made along the way in that realm previously continue to have some sort of impact, or whatever the impact might be, whether it's where I can go, who I can interact with, whatever it is, do they have lasting impacts on future quests I might bring into that realm?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes. Yeah.
Very
Just
cool.
based on what's available in the realm and the state of the realm.
Now, we may keep talking a lot about a lot of ongoing decisions, impacts, unlocks, all that. Is this a legacy game in the sense that you destroy things, or is it more of a campaign game in the sense, can you reset things? Can a player buy this game?
Everything in the game can be absolutely, completely, 100% reset, packaged back up, put away, given to a friend, sold, whatever.
Nothing's destroyed.
Yeah, nothing is destroyed. It is designed with the assumption that, some people will want to do that, but I think most people will want to just keep going and see what comes next, and go over the next hill and go over the next hill, and get new content and explore new realms and explore new packs and build on what they've done before.
Speaking of new content, how many realms does the game come with initially?
We're still debating the number of realms for this Kickstarter. We have many of them in development, but there's a lot of factors that go into what makes sense as a opening proposition.
So like your other games, it sounds like you plan to support this down the road with more realms, more content, more whatever.
Absolutely. We, as
the whole model.
as you've seen with Unsettled, we are not a company that just cranks out a few games every year, and then next year we need to crank out a few more games. We're putting out a game every 2 or 3 years, and then we support them forever. Our goal is to launch franchises. And
yeah, the concept for us with gaming is we're going to release Spiritfire in the same way that we did Unsettled, where there's like a core box. In Spiritfire, it's a character box, and there's an initial investment to get the system going with that character box, but then adding a realm box is supposed to be extremely cost effective and a lot of value per play at a very minimal investment. So once you're past the initial core box, we plan to just perpetuate it with realms and personal quests and things that are very affordable and cheap to ship. So that's kind of the way that we're going from a manufacturing standpoint. But like one of the things you were touching on is we are trying to build living worlds that people can associate with.
you can have a long-term relationship with.
Yeah.
We're
Characters will pop up in, maybe it's just a completely different game. Oh, that's a character from Vindication.
I was
this
about
shows
to
up
ask.
in another little game.
I know with Unsettled you've gotten a million questions to like cross-compatible content and all that, but like Spiritfire could be an opportunity to visit that wretched scumbag you once were.
It's true.
It's part of the conversation. Yeah.
Interesting. Anyways, so I think that's the main questions I have. So I guess what do you want people to know? If you're talking to your core audience, you're talking to people who've played Unsettled, who've played Vindication, or possibly people who've played neither of them, what's the main sales pitch for this game? Like, who is it for? What's compelling about it? Why should people pay attention to this one? I mean, it's different. I guess we covered it's different. But like,
if you want to play a dungeon crawler game with no combat, this is going to be interesting to you. If you want to play single player Magic, this is interesting to you. If you want to play Magic the campaign game, this is interesting to you. Add to this.
If you want an intellectual challenge and you feel like you like puzzly types of situations that have story behind them, you are going to be challenged in this game. However, if you don't like things that are too crunchy and you want to be able to go as far as you can and then kind of move on to the next thing, you can also do that in this game. So you can go with the puzzles kind of as far as you want. There are some quests that you kind of have to build up for and overcome, but a lot of the content in this game is how did I approach that and how far did I get, and not necessarily a binary black and white, did I do it, did I not do it. That's the type of game this is. It's very much go at your own pace and feel the flavors and the textures and everything too.
It also is designed and intended to be emotionally substantive. You know, it's not get the critters so you can get the loot, you know, or get the bigger critter for bigger loot, or, you know, look, shades of gray, dark, dramatic things are happening. It's what's happening inside you. Like, what are you thinking and feeling, and what is the emotional proposition to the things? What does it mean to go on a fantasy adventure? Like, what on a deeper level
what did you
does
learn?
that mean?
Yeah, what did you learn? How did you get mentally stronger? How did you prepare yourself for bigger, harder things? That's what this game is. It's not about magic items, and it's not about, you know, combat in that sense. It's very much about what's happening inside and how can I become wiser and how can I handle situations differently each time based on the circumstances. So at least that's what we're reaching for.
cool. Well, that's Spiritfire, at least so far. Make sure to check out on the channel. We'll have a first impressions video as well. But when's it coming to Kickstarter? 24th?
Very soon.
Yeah, we have a live stream event on the 24th of October where we are making a big Spiritfire announcement.
Cool. Sounds good. In any case, until next time, thanks so much for joining both of you. And as always, I hope you have a good one.
Bye.
Yes.
It's just been right here the whole
Yes.
time.
You can decide to cut that after.